Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Picciuto, and thanks for coming along with us today. Episode 4, we're doing our Q&A number 1. And when I started the Wrong Advice Podcast, I kind of envisioned it as this place where people would ask me questions. I would give them shitty answers. Could be questions about me, about life, about dating, about relationships, movies, TV, food, whatever. So I went around to some friends and had some questions put together and teed up for today's episode. And if you'd like to submit questions for next week's episode, please feel free to shoot me a DM either on Twitter or Instagram. It's just at John Picciuto, and hopefully we can see some more questions streaming in for the next couple episodes. On the horizon, I've got some guests lined up for a couple shows in the future, and the plan is to just kind of have one of these open dialogue kind of conversations where we talk about everything from, life to relationships and et cetera, like I just said. So the first question I got was, with the pandemic, are you feeling like your batteries are unplugged lately? The person sent me a meme. It was like a picture of a person laying down with the batteries unplugged from their back. And boy, I think that's a really easy feeling to have and to kind of understand in a year plus after the COVID outbreak. It's just been a really weird year, really different from obviously every other year in maybe human history, and it's super easy to feel lethargic, unmotivated, and kind of unplugged from the rest of the world. I have felt like that at times, and other times I've felt pretty good. And it just really is a day-to-day thing. I think, in times like these, it's really easy to feel low or bad or shitty, and, you just kind of have to take each day as they come. The next question was, how have you been taking care of your mind and wellness during the pandemic? And I think that's a really good question as well. Initially, I had a job early on in the pandemic, so I was working a lot. My days were full of meetings and Zoom calls and, conference calls, and ultimately I was super busy on a daily basis. I didn't have much time to really, think about what was going on. The implications of the virus on, human history and the world, etc. So it didn't really hit me or affect me till, 4 to 6 months later when I got laid off. So shortly after I was let go from my job, I took a cross-country trip. I hopped in my car, I packed it up, I drove west. I went as far as Wyoming and Jackson Hole, and went south down to Utah, Park City, and then came back. Was going to go to California, but it was literally on fire. So how have I been taking care of my mind and wellness? While I took a trip, I thought that was a really good way to kind of reset and unplug. And lately, I've been focusing a lot on health. I love to cook, so I've been learning new recipes, trying to do as good a job as possible of increasing the amount of healthy foods that I eat, and limiting kind of, the Taco Bell and Wendy's of the world, and working out more. So by being more active and eating healthier, I've found that I actually have a little bit more energy, so I'm doing more working out, and it's also then incentivizing me to eat better. I've been reading a lot more. Probably in the last 6 months, I've read about 13 books. I usually read about a book a month normally, so I can't necessarily say that that's much different. But what is nice is that I'm reading a little bit more mental health books, books to inspire, just thought-provoking books that I think I can link down in the show notes below, that, some recommendations that I think people might like. I think in an unprecedented time in human history like we're in now, taking care of your mind and your body is obviously of utmost importance, just, even to stave off illness. So for me, it didn't really look like that a year ago, but in the last few months, I've been doing a much better job of taking care of myself for sure. Next question on the docket is, during dinner, do I sit at the dinner table as a couple, or do I have dinner by the television? Well, number one, I'm not a couple, so I don't sit at the dinner table with my significant other. But that being said, I do have a small television in my kitchen. I kind of have an open floor plan, kitchen living area, so there is kind of the interaction of the two. When I would be in a relationship, I would typically sit at the dinner table as a couple. And try not to have the TV on as much as possible. Growing up in an Italian household, dinner time was one of the key commonalities in growing up in terms of having everyone together, talking about our days, talking about how our weeks were going in school and tests coming up and sports and the whole nine yards. So as growing up in that environment, I try to always do that when I'm with someone. So having dinner, sitting down as a couple at the table versus watching TV is pretty standard for me. So this is the following question is a bit loaded and kind of heavy, but is, do you believe in God or an afterlife? And obviously that is a tremendous question, and one that I think I might want to spend more than just a couple minutes, articulating on. I think probably more likely next time I have a guest, either a full segment or maybe an entire podcast to this subject. But I do believe in an afterlife. I do believe in a quote-unquote God. I don't necessarily think we have to ascribe a specific religion to God. It doesn't have to be Catholicism or Judaism or whatever. I think that there is enough evidence that there is a higher power out there, and that's what I choose to believe in. I think that we can probably jump into more of this later on. I think that'll make for a really good episode in the future. So thanks for asking that. What made you get into photography? Another good question. I don't really know what kind of kicked off my photography journey, and obviously this is a bit more of a personal question versus a generic kind of life or relationship question. But I want to say it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was a couple years after I had kind of stopped writing, and I was just looking for something new to do. So I bought a camera and I just started taking pictures of my family, and then, saw a documentary that really kind of piqued my interest into street photography and documentary style photography. And that kind of changed it for me. It turned into something that was just a side passion to, I think, the number one thing that I would like to see the rest of my life be. There's just something about being behind the camera and making an image that really gives me a quote unquote high that other things in my life haven't really done for me. I like it better than writing. It's just something that I can't really fully articulate how much it means to me or how much I love it. And probably another topic to discuss on another episode and give it a little bit more time than it deserves. Maybe dedicating an entire podcast talking about life and passion and desires and what we want out of our lives. Might be a good tie-in with a religion episode probably. Okay, let's see. Best food for a first date. I would say something low in onion count and nothing too crazy spicy, and something that's not going to upset your stomach. I usually take people to Italian restaurants, and I don't know if that's just because I'm Italian or if it's because I just subconsciously want to have something that I know will agree with me. I can get into some hilarious stories in my past on not great food experiences on dates, and I'm not sure that today is going to be that day. But yeah, I think obviously nothing fast food oriented and nothing too adventurous. Kind of just throw something down the middle that can be easy to digest and won't linger later on in the night in case there is an opportunity for a goodnight kiss. Next question. Best drink I've ever had. I don't know if this means alcoholic or otherwise, but as a child, I was super obsessed with Orange All Sport, which I don't even think exists anymore. Obviously, alcoholic beverage wise, I prefer whiskeys and scotches. Been drinking a lot of bourbon lately. I'm not really sure what this question means, so I would say I drink a lot of water, love ginger ale, and bourbon and orange juice, and yeah, that's about it. Funny question, though. TV show recommendations. What was the last show you watched? I think I touched upon this on an earlier episode. I just finished Flight Attendant. It was awesome with Kaylee Cuoco. Definitely recommend that. I just finished, what did I just watch yesterday? Oh boy, I can't even remember. I did do the cinematic from start to finish, all of the Marvel movies. Obviously, those are not TV shows, but it took a lot of time to kind of dive through all of those. And it was fun. You know, I've seen them all multiple amounts of times, so that wasn't crazy, but obviously, yeah. TV. Let's see. Obviously, Rick and Morty, I think, is hysterical. I love that show, but that's not going to probably be on for like another year or two. I rewatch How I Met Your Mother a lot. I really love that show. The Office. I mean, nothing crazy that I don't think anybody's ever watched before. Looking forward to when Succession comes back. That show is absolutely awesome. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely highly recommend it. Yellowstone, I don't think it's on the Paramount channel or Peacock or something. Really, really awesome show. You know, there's a million shows. I watch pretty much everything, so it's really hard to give recommendations. Next question was favorite movie. I own hundreds of movies. I literally see everything. So that's an additionally difficult question. I really hate giving recommendations for movies and TV shows because I watch everything. So it's super hard for me to give advice on what to watch. It's easier for someone to ask me, did you like X or did you like Y versus what can you recommend? And I feel like that's a pretty big cop-out, but whatever, that's my shtick. But favorite movie, I don't know. I love Almost Famous. That's probably one of my favorite movies. Let me think. I do like the Marvel movies. Can't hate on Harry Potter. Favorite Christmas movie is probably Home Alone. I like watching documentaries. There's a lot of really great photography documentaries that I'm obsessed with. Finding Vivian Maier was one that really kind of piqued my interest, both documentary-wise and photography-wise. I could definitely recommend that. Interstellar, definitely love that movie. Life Itself is a documentary about Roger Ebert. I don't know if you remember him. He was a film critic in Chicago for many, many years. And it's just kind of the story about the end of his life. He was riddled with cancer, and it was really interesting. Lost his ability to speak, and it was just a really beautiful look into a person's kind of understanding and reconciling the end of their life. And for a person whose words were such a big part of his life, his inability to speak, it was just a really, really beautiful film. Godfather Part 2, I hate to even admit this, but the Pitch Perfect movies, they're fantastic. Anna Kendrick, I absolutely love. Let me think about movies from when I was a kid. Little Giants, Rookie of the Year, what was the other one? Little Big League, the Three Ninja movies. I mean, pretty much anything from when I was a kid, I'm super nostalgic about, and I enjoy. But yeah, like I said, I'm not really great at giving movie recommendations, but if someone wants to ask me if I like something, I'll give a pretty honest review of the film. I just watched No Man Land, which I believe won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, and while I think Frances McDermott was fantastic in it, the movie was very bad. Really surprised that it won an award. And yeah, I'm not really sure why that won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, but I'm not a critic, so neither here nor there. All right, so let's go to the next question. Long distance relationships, are they good or are they bad? That's a loaded question. Obviously, I think it depends a lot on factors like age, the geographic location of the distance. I don't think there's a carte blanche answer of whether they are good or bad. I've had some bad experiences with the long distance relationships just because I was young and immature and I was incapable of articulating how much the distance affected me. Yeah, that's probably a story for another day. I don't think they're good or bad. I think they are what the couple makes of it. If you're over 30, I don't think a long distance is a bad thing. You could probably make it work. I would imagine that you're capable of keeping it in your pants. When you're in your early to mid 20s, probably even late 20s, trust is a big factor in a long distance relationship. I've never cheated on someone, but that being said, I can envision scenarios where distance does cause those types of problems. So that being the case, I don't know how to answer whether they're good or bad. I think it just depends on the couple, how solid their foundation is, how early on in the relationship that distance happens. I think constant communication and honesty are two very large factors in terms of whether they can be successful or not. Next question, biggest regret or biggest mistake? Ooh, wow. Geez, that's tough. I'm not a big regret person. I'm the kind of person who likes to live my life forward viewing or forward looking. I think when you get into situations where you're constantly looking back and wondering what if, or looking back and thinking, damn, I fucked that up, that could be a self-fulfilling detriment for you in the present. I have mistakes that I've made, in sports, in school, in life in general, but I don't necessarily think I regret any of them. I think that you learn lessons throughout life that are intended to teach you, and you learn them when you're supposed to learn them. I don't necessarily look at the mistakes that I've made in my life as something that I could have avoided. I think that they were presented to me as a challenge at the moment in time when I needed to learn that lesson. I don't necessarily think I have regrets. I have instances in my past that I wish I had better understanding of how important a moment was or how much it would impact me long term. And I don't necessarily regret those moments. I just wish I was more cognizant of how fleeting those moments are. And I think that is a very valuable life lesson. Understanding life is extremely short. And to take in the moments that are special and try to hold on to them during the moment and kind of recognize how special something is when it's happening. Because again, as you get older, you start looking backwards at things and, look at them as regrets or mistakes or more importantly with fondness. I don't know that I've got a biggest regret. I've obviously made plenty of mistakes in my life, and probably starting this podcast was one of them. But that's probably another conversation for a date later in the future. That's all the questions for today's episode. That was our very first Q&A session. Look forward to having a lot more of these. I love answering questions. I love giving people advice. Whether that advice or the answers to my questions are any good will be up to you to describe or kind of let me know. That's it for episode 4 of the Wrong Advice Podcast. Appreciate you guys coming along with me again. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, rate the podcast, follow me on social, and look forward to the next one. Obviously, the next episode will not be a Q&A session, but if you've got questions and you want some answers, feel free to shoot me a DM, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.